If I had known that one night in that roadside hotel would carve itself into my memory so deeply that I'd still flinch at the sight of it years later, I would have let my car roll into a ditch before stepping through its front door. But that night, exhaustion made every decision for me, and the forested stretch of the Appalachian highway made sure I had nowhere else to go. I drive between two Appalachian towns almost every week. Same route, same curves, same gas stations. And every time I pass that lonely hotel by the highway, something inside me knots up. No reason, no story, no warning. Just a cold wave that washes over my shoulders the moment it enters my headlights. I could never explain it. That night, though, I didn't get the luxury of passing it by. It was nearly 11 p.m. when my engine coughed once, twice, and died completely. No sputter, no warning lights, just silence and the sound of tires rolling to a stop. I coasted to the shoulder, swore under my breath, and tried the ignition again. Nothing, not even a click. I looked up at the dark tree line swallowing both sides of the road. And there it was, the hotel. A rectangle of dim orange light in an ocean of black asphalt and forest. No cars in the lot, no movement in the windows, just standing there. Quiet, too quiet, like a place untouched by time. I didn't want to go near it, but walking miles in the dark wasn't an option. So I pushed my car the few hundred meters to the parking lot. The gravel crunched under my boots like breaking bones. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of old carpet and something metallic. The man at the front desk barely looked up. No greeting, no small talk, just slid a key toward me. "Room 317, he said, voice flat, expression unreadable. I didn't care. I just needed sleep. The room was exactly what you'd expect. 2 lamps, small table, an outdated TV, a bed with a floral patterned blanket that belonged to a different decade. Nothing special. Nothing strange. At least, not yet. I kicked off my shoes, didn't bother with a shower, and collapsed onto the bed in my clothes. My body sank instantly into the mattress. My eyes shut on their own. And somewhere between breath and darkness, I fell into the first nightmare. I stood in the hallway of the hotel. Same wallpaper, same carpet. But the lights overhead flickered like they were drowning in water. All the doors were closed except one at the far end. My room number, 317. It was open just a crack. From inside came the soft sound of breathing. Not steady, not human. I tried to turn away, but my feet carried me forward. Every step felt like wading through cold syrup. The door creaked wider as I approached, though I never touched it. And just as I crossed the threshold, something moved on the bed. A shape, rising slowly, like someone had been lying exactly where I had just fallen asleep. The blanket shifted, and the moment the shape began to sit up, my vision snapped to black. I jerked awake in my real bed, heart punching against my ribs. Sweat soaked my collar. It took several seconds to understand I wasn't still in that hallway. I lay there, breathing hard, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the distant rumble of trucks on the highway. It was just a dream, I whispered. But something about the room felt wrong. Wrong in the way a smile feels wrong on a mannequin. I stared into the dark for several minutes, waiting for the shaking in my hands to fade. Eventually, my eyelids drooped. Exhaustion pulled me down again, and somewhere between blinking and sleep, the nightmare returned. The second nightmare didn't ease in this time. It hit me, dragging me under before I even realized I'd fallen asleep again. I was in my room, number 317, but everything felt slightly wrong, as if someone had rebuilt the place from memory and got the proportions just a little off. The ceiling was lower, the shadows deeper, the air heavier, like it carried someone else's breath. The TV in the corner flickered on by itself, glowing with static. I walked toward it, though I didn't remember choosing to move. The sound wasn't just white noise. It had a rhythm, a pulse, almost like whispers filtered through thick cloth. I leaned closer, and the static shifted, forming the outline of a room. My room. Same bed, same lamps, same doorway. Only there was someone standing in the far corner, not facing me, just facing the wall, head tilted slightly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. I tried to speak, but the moment my mouth opened, the figure snapped its head toward me. Not turning its body, only the head, as if it had been waiting for me to break the silence. My legs buckled, and everything collapsed into blackness again. I shot up in bed, drenched in sweat. My shirt clung to my skin. My heartbeat felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. Jesus. Get a grip, I whispered, gripping the sheets. I reached for my phone. 2:17 a.m. Only 2 hours had passed since I got the room key. The thought of going back to sleep made my throat tighten. I needed something, anything, to anchor myself. So I grabbed the remote and switched on the TV. Static, no channels, not even the usual late-night infomercials. Just a wall of noise hissing through the room like a living thing. I flipped through every number, same thing. Endless static, each burst sounding like a breath drawn too close to my ear. I turned the volume down, but not all the way. Silence felt worse. For a long time, I just lay there staring at the ceiling, counting the patterns and the cracks, trying to stay awake. But exhaustion has its own gravity, and somewhere between my racing thoughts and the quiet hum of the air conditioner, my eyes slid shut again. And the third nightmare came instantly. I was back in the hallway, but this time the lights weren't flickering. They were completely out. Pitch black. The only illumination came from under the door of room 317, a thin strip of pale light stretching across the carpet, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. I walked toward it, though every part of me screamed not to. As I got closer, I heard something on the other side. Not breathing this time, not footsteps, knocking, soft, slow, repetitive. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. As if something inside the room was signaling me, or warning me. I reached the door, my hand lifted toward the knob. Then the knocking stopped. Silence swallowed the hall. I leaned forward, listening, and a voice, hoarse and close to the doorframe, whispered, "Don't wake up." My body jerked backward as though someone had shoved me. And suddenly I was staring at the ceiling of the real room 317, gasping for air, blankets twisted around my legs. For a moment, I didn't know what world I was in. All I knew was that the sun still hadn't risen. The digital clock glowed in the darkness, and my body felt like it had lived a whole lifetime of terror in a matter of hours. I sat up, shaking, and pressed my palms to my eyes. I couldn't survive a fourth dream. But as the minutes dragged on, the room seemed to grow smaller, the air heavier, and the shadows behind the TV stretched just a little too far into the floor. And I realized something that made my stomach drop. The nightmares weren't the problem. It was the moments between them, the moments when I was awake, that felt the most wrong. By the time the night crawled past 4 a.m., I wasn't sleeping anymore, just drifting in a fog between dreaming and waking. Every blink felt dangerous, like the room might twist into another nightmare if I let my guard down. But it didn't. It stayed exactly as it was, silent, still watching me. I sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees, trying to breathe steadily. My body wasn't just tired. It felt drained, hollow. The only light came from the orange glow of the parking lot leaking through the curtains. I kept telling myself the fear was just exhaustion, that the dreams had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. Still, every shadow in the room felt wrong. Not moving, just present. I checked my phone. 5:42 a.m., almost sunrise. I stood up and paced the room slowly, just to stay awake. My hands were trembling. My shirt was still damp with cold sweat. When I pulled the curtain aside, I saw it, a thin line of pale blue rising over the trees. Dawn. Finally. Relief hit me so hard, my knees almost softened. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door without checking anything else. I simply needed distance. The hallway outside was quiet, normal quiet. No flickering lights, no strange proportions. Just an ordinary hotel hallway. Somehow that made everything that happened feel even more unreal. Like the night had been sealed away the instant I stepped out. The lobby was empty. The man from last night wasn't there. I didn't ring the bell. I just placed the key on the counter and walked out. The morning air hit me like a reset button. Cold, grounding, real. Colors looked sharper, sounds clearer. The world felt solid again. I let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I called a tow truck. The driver arrived quickly, hooked up my dead car, and asked casually, "Rough night?" "You don't know the half of it," I said. He didn't push for details, and I was grateful. As we rolled off the lot, I turned my head toward the hotel, then stopped myself. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want a single glimpse pulling me back into what the night had been. Once we reached the highway, I finally felt my chest loosen. The hotel shrank in the mirror until the trees swallowed it completely. I still drive that same route between the two towns. Same road, same landmarks. But whenever the hotel comes into view, even for a second, I keep my eyes glued to the asphalt. I don't slow down. I don't look over. I don't even let myself blink until I'm past it, because nothing real happened there. Nothing I can prove. Nothing that followed me home. But those dreams, those hours, that feeling, it was real enough. And I know one thing with absolute certainty. I will never spend another night in that place again. If this story unsettled you, leave a like and let the shadows know. Subscribe for more tales you shouldn't hear after dark. And if you've seen something you can't explain, tell us in the comments. We're always listening.